It was my 40th birthday, and excuse me, and in the beginning of that year, I was working on a script that I had been working on for a very long time. So, so long that it was really when I graduated from graduate school, which was in 2006. Now, I can't say I've been working on that script since then. Nonetheless, I had been working on my dad and I's story of how I went from the hood to Harvard, how he went from Rikers Island to righteousness, right? We had been talking about that story, working on that story. We started a podcast in 2019 about that story called Parables from the Projects, which is now my production company. And we I mean, just that's why I started the podcast because we were talking about it so much that I said, you know what, since we talk so much, I was in LA and I was like seeing all these people starting their podcasts, and I was like, we might as well just record these conversations and put the story out there. So thankfully, I think it was at the end of actually 2023. And I had reached out to, slid in the DMs of a filmmaker, and I was like, hey, love your work. Just want to say, congratulations, on everything that you've done. And he actually responded. It was like, thank you so much, and things like that. And I said, my dad and I would love to have you on our podcast. He was like, okay, let's set up a pre-call. But that it didn't even like that took about 2 years to happen, right? I have to go back to the original DM because that could have been that could have been 2022 when I actually reached out to him, right? So this is 3 years after the podcast began. Reach out to film producer. Boom. We have a conversation 2 years later. Then about a year later, I would say, like maybe 6 months, I went to an event where they actually had faith-based filmmakers, right? People that were working on like chosen, I think well, not maybe not Father Stew, but I think I have a chosen poster here. I love my film posters. And stories like that, and House of David, right? So they had stories like that. um Even some of my favorites like The Forge, or what is it called? War Room, like these amazing faith-based films, right? So they had people that worked on those films, people from Pure Flix, like things like that. Anyway, went to that conference in Nashville, met with the filmmaker, and met another amazing woman who I'm going to be working with soon. And that was in 2023, right? That was in 2023. So it was after that, probably 6 months after that. Well, not even 6 months. It had to be like 3 months or something like that, where the filmmaker said, I want to help you write your script for your short. And I was like, really? He was like, yep, I teach a class. I'll go through, some drafts with you and, just get it shoot ready. So I was able to do that. So fast forward to, we had the table read for this in maybe April. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to set a date. After the table read, I was like, okay, I know what I have to do to change the script, to how I like it. And this is what we can do. And then I set a date. I said, we have to shoot this short. Well, I wanted to shoot the short in that summer. I was like, we wrote the script. We had a award-winning filmmaker to look at the script. He went through 3 drafts of it. And I was like, you know, let's just shoot this summer because I knew I would be going to Martha's Vineyard because I love Martha's Vineyard African American Film Festival. And I knew that I couldn't shoot it after like the second week of August because that's when I would be on the vineyard. So I set a date for like, I was like just telling the people, the actors that I was interested in. Shout out to my friend Gabby because she introduced me to my main character. And after we had him, I think it was easier, who played my dad, and it was easier to get everybody else. But anyway, so, I remember fast forward to, I'm trying to, I don't even know if I started raising money, but, or I don't know what the hindrance was. Like I had went to film school, right, in the beginning of 2024 and was able to shoot and just learn, of course, more about, the technical side, lighting and sound and more about editing, right? Then I had learned just from like teaching myself. And of course, I went to, not of course, but my dad and I actually went to Gotham Writers Workshop. So we worked on scripts before, but, I, thanks to Phil Branch, Hampton graduate that I met at Martha's Vineyard African American Film Festival in 2023, he told me that he was working with Cheryl Lee Ralph, and she told him like, if you're going to be, a director, you need to direct. And he was like, shortly after that, he quit his job and went into a film intensive. So he didn't go to film school for like, years, get an MFA, whatever or anything like that, but he did a film intensive and he was like, maybe you should do that if you really want to, take yourself seriously and be in the industry. So that's what I did. Signed up for New York Film Academy. I went there for a 4-week intensive program and did that at the beginning of 2024. So I was able to shoot like a little kind of preview of my short, but yeah, it was only 2 minutes long, and, I wasn't able to shoot the full thing because I wasn't even finished the script at that time. So anyway, I graduated, basically, in February and wanted to work on my short. And so, went through the 3 drafts of the short. Anyway, like I said, in the spring, we had the table read, and then by the time the summer came, I don't know what happened, honestly. In that time, I was podcast producing independently because I had left my job. So, which was a whole nother thing to navigate, but because I thought I was going to be able to come back. Either way, July comes. It's my 40th birthday. And my dad is staying with me. My mom, my dad, a couple friends stayed over at my place in Atlanta, after my 40th birthday party. And I was telling my dad, like, hey, less than a month from now, I said that I wanted to shoot the short. And he just like simply said, like, you're either gonna do it, like, or you're not gonna do it. I don't even remember exactly what he said, but that was the day when I said, "You know what? I know it's probably gonna be hard. I know I don't have the budget that I want." But that was the day that I really remember. It probably was my birthday or like, well, it had to be after my birthday because the party was after my birthday, but it was around 5 days after my birthday, probably like July 21st, I would say. When it was like, I have to do this. Like, I can't keep on waiting for people to give me the money. I can't wait to get the grant. I can't wait to get, you know, um, access. I can't wait until, somebody says, yeah, we're going to give you $10,000, $15,000 to fund your film. No, it was either going to happen, like my dad said, or it wasn't. So I was like, you know what? Got to make it happen. So that from then on, I was like, okay, we're shooting first weekend in August. And that's what I did. Like, I remember being in the I remember just, like I needed a crew. I didn't have a crew. I had some potential actors, but some people were dropping out. Some people couldn't be there. The people that did the table read, like that I thought was, going to potentially be able to do everything else did not work out that way. So my dad and I remember I think it was around, I don't know when it was, but we put out a casting call. We were like, "Hey, come and sign up and be on our short film," and things like that. We put out a casting call and just tried to do, everything to get actors, get a crew together, and we really didn't have anybody. We set up a GoFundMe to raise some money. We got in a little bit, and that's how we were able to get a DP at the least, somebody to film the shoot. But about 2 weeks before, this had to be maybe the week after my birthday. I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to send out an email basically to the listservs that, hey, I'm looking for, a crew call. We don't have, this is a low to no budget film. And, this will really be for experience. And, I really had to do that. I believe I did ask somebody for their advice, like how to ask that and things like that, just navigating it. But we made it work, like made it work, made it happen because I could not wait for anybody any longer to give me the green light to be able to produce, right? And so I remember being in Whole Foods, and they have the Whole Foods, coffee bar. And I was in there and was just discouraged. Like, how am I going to do this in 2 weeks? We don't have any money. Like, what are you going to do, Mia? And I saw an actor. I saw an actor that was actually on a, BMF, on a popular show, right? And I actually knew him from before, and he was in there. I was already there working, and he happened to come in with a script because he was working on a script. He was actually in a play that I went to go see. But yeah, he was working on a script, and he was waiting for his girlfriend who just happened to be, I promise you, I never worked in this Whole Food before and have not worked in that Whole Food since. I don't think I've worked from a Whole Food since. But either way, I just happened to be in the area. I don't even know why. I think I was looking for a place to work from, really trying to get this movie together. Like, had a lot of money and no job, but I was working for myself. So but either way, but I was in there and feeling discouraged, and then I saw the actor. Now, the funny thing about seeing the actor was that Jason Louder is the actor that I saw. He presented me with an award, my Lifetime Achievement Award. That was maybe a few weeks prior. So I knew him. I knew him from the event. And so, we had a relationship already. So it wasn't like, I was just seeing an actor and I'm just like fangirling out on him. I saw him because he presented me with a Lifetime Achievement Award that I got from Dr. Nicola, um, from Girls Who Brunch Tour, for my work, in nonprofit spaces, in sports, with Stephen Marjorie Harvey Foundation. Like, so this was like just not serendipitous. I know it was God telling me, you know what? You're out here. Send that email out. And I was like nervous and, hesitating. But I was like, now I know I have to do it because it was like, God gave me the fleece. He was like, you have to go forward and do this. I was like, okay, let's go. Like, so I sent out an email to We Are the Industry, a listserv, and did a call. And honestly, I think that same day, Londe, co-founder of Black Film Space, was like, hey, this is great. I don't know if she said this is great, but she was like, hey, can I send this to my listserv? And I've been on Black Film Space. I was probably planning to, no, I know I was, likely, going to send it out to Black Film Space too. But of course, it coming from a co-founder, like, yeah, I'm going to, um, I would love for you to send it out. Lo and behold, that's where like half of, not even half, I would say that's where a majority of the cast and the crew for Shock the Short Film came from, okay? Thank God, man. Thank God. I thank God for Black Film Space for sure. Londe, Reggie, like, they are top tier, and shout out to everybody that worked on it. I had some, like I said, I had already had Malik, who was our lead. I had him for like a year, like, because I had been talking about this for so long, but I had him for like a year. And because I wanted to just shoot something real quick last summer, but it just really was not together. It was no advisor, no mentor, no nothing. So had him, I had some friends. I had actually somebody that I met at New York Film Academy, and I still had contacts from New York Film Academy that, kind of came together. But I would say a lot of them, especially Ariana and Kay, cannot remember right now, but starts with the K. But she, but Ariana was my like UPM, unit production manager, and she really put together our call sheet. She really kept everything organized. She was amazing and didn't ask for a dime, right? I was able to, with the GoFundMe money, get lunch for everybody and things like that. But, and like I said, get the DP. And I called in a favor from a nonprofit that I used to work at. We used that space as a location. The park that I went to for a location, it was my former student. She happened to work at Shirley Chisholm Park. And we went over there and shot, whoo child, in the rain. And it was a time. We shot 2 days in that first weekend in August because I couldn't wait anymore, right? And so I just say all of that, really say all of that, because I absolutely, want anybody that's watching this to be able to do the same thing, right? I remember like applying to the Lena Waithe, the Hillman grad program. I remember applying to, all of these, programs and, just getting rejected. And I think that those programs are valid and I definitely still want to apply to them because I know people that have gotten, into them and, I've seen their films, come to light and them be displayed at Martha's Vineyard African American Film Festival and the like. But I knew that I couldn't just wait and hope for someone in the industry to discover my work, right? I felt drained, resentful, questioning my talent, questioning if I should quit. But thankfully, and I promise you, the day before we shot that weekend, that Friday of us shooting Saturday and Sunday, I was like, why did I do this? Why did I sign up for it? I didn't get that DP until about 11 o'clock, maybe 10:30 that night before. And it was so stressful. I was like, why did I put myself in this? Because I had already like I met somebody in Atlanta, our casting director, met her in Atlanta at a, Rob Hardy's, foundation, met her at that event, like, it was really, like, piecemeal, that was, like, networking across, and that's how I met the casting director, so I had all these people depending on me, and I didn't have a DP because I didn't really have enough money to be able to, um, afford one and afford really like the black magic cameras and oh man, shout out to oh man, there was a Damon did it. Shout out to him because I had been talking to him for like 3 or 4 years, just about things. And he was like, oh, you could have borrowed my camera. It was so many factors, like, making this thing happen, like, that's why I mean, it's not public now because the music is unlicensed, I will admit, but, we're going to get that music, we're going to put it out there, and really, like, just show people, like, "Hey, don't wait for somebody," because now I was able to meet people and, I'm able to send that to them. It's not perfect by any means, but people can see, okay, this is the story that I want to be told. This is the story that I want to put out there. And all it took was just me not waiting on somebody to produce for me. You have to produce yourself, right? It's not about waiting. It's about you producing yourself, right? You have to be findable. You have to make sure that people can find you, right? Don't hide. Put your work out there, right? I'm committing to YouTube now, sharing my story because I want to be able to tell the next generation of filmmakers, or the next iteration of filmmakers, that you can do this. I want to track the journey. I'm not there yet. I don't have anything on Netflix yet, but I will one day. And then I'm going to be able to reference this video. Hey, this is the video that I just talked about, making my longest narrative short. I remember speaking to a mentor that I just don't want to mention their names yet, because they want to protect their privacy. But I had another mentor. He was like, "You need a narrative short." Like I met him before. I sent him my 2-minute video that I made at film school, and I was like, "Yeah, so proud of it." He was like, "You need a narrative." Like he was like, "You're going to be out here talking to producers. You need something with narrative. You need something, with dialogue." And so I was like, "Oh, okay." I remember that time too. So it was just so, you have to go through the awkward phases. You have to go through the phases where it's going to like make you a little bit nervous, and like making you lose your breath, and you're not going to have the perfect gear, right? I don't even I don't even want to speak about the perfect gear. Even down to the editing. I didn't have any money to hire an editor. We thankfully have that footage, and I thankfully have that footage, right? So that we can get it, a cleaner edit down the line. But my friend Stephanie, she edited on her iPad, okay? Really at little cost, right? So she was like, "Hey Mia, I can edit your film." Like we're still going through. I still need it sound mixed. I still need to score it with, um, with music, right? That I don't have to license or pay for. So, man, I just know that I decided to start putting out content that could have been a paid workshop, but I'm giving it to the girl trying to figure it out from her bedroom, like me, right? And so, man, the small wins have to count. That's what I do count, right? Man, like just continuing to go, continuing to keep the faith, man, um, is really what keeps me going. Any comments that I get in from these videos, y'all encourage me. So please, please keep them coming. If you feel like you're talented but invisible in this industry, please know that I made this channel for you. Glow Girl, for me, is about the Black woman in film who feels dimmed. I'm building resources, community, and eventually programs for you. But right now, it starts with honest conversations. If this is you, comment Glow Girl so that I know you're here, and I'll keep making videos like this. Until next time, follow me on all platforms at Mia Hall TV. You can follow Parables from the Projects. That's my production company. And remember, you can visit miahalltv.com to pick up your copy of Glow Girl. All right? So until next time, keep glowing, keep showing up, and keep elevating. Peace.